welcome to Uz Report World News Broadcasting with me, Davron Jumaev. Uz Motors has been at the center of scandal for almost the entire past decade. Ordinary citizens complain about the monopolistic position of the company in the car market, which has resulted in high prices and low quality. A meeting chaired by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on Wednesday can now somehow stabilize the situation as instructions were announced to produce budget vehicles.
Car manufacturing accounts for 11% of industrial production, and several companies are eager to invest in this field. Mirziyoyev urged to spend investments in the industrial assembly of cars, with emphasis to be placed on the production of up to 60,000 budget cars and electric vehicles per year. The production of inexpensive body parts should be the priority. The localization level is to reach 30% by the end of this year and not less than 45% next year. Shares of Uz Motors at 14 organizations not related to the main activity of the company will go under hammer, a major step towards eradicating monopoly in the car market. An enterprise in the Northwest Khorasan region will launch the production of body parts. 4 more projects will be implemented in Andijan, with 2 in Navai region. More than 100 private enterprises will master the production of 80 types of parts.
Uzbekistan plans to export goods worth over $17 billion in 2021. The country also plans to involve more than 2,000 new enterprises in this process, the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade said on January 14. It also unveiled the results of last year. Exports from Uzbekistan during 2020 made up $15.1 billion. The volume of foreign investment in fixed assets amounted to $6.6 billion. Some 169,000 new jobs were created as part of the investment programs. According to forecasts, Uzbekistan will see $10.5 billion foreign investment this year. The country's main trading partners are China, Russia, Kazakhstan, South Korea and Turkey. Uzbek deputies are now working on the draft law on licensing, authorization and notification procedures. The document aims at simplifying the business launching procedure. Justice Minister has clarified the draft. The government is setting up a new notification system which works under the law and required from the businesses. In 33 types of particular cases, entrepreneurs will be able to start their businesses by taking some responsibilities. But operating without notification is equated with operating without license. With a trust for the businessman, the Institute for the conclusion of a license agreement will no longer be operating. So far, the government has been wasting some $11 million for unnecessary bureaucracy. Now it is planned to issue licenses only in electronic form with QR codes. Drivers in Uzbekistan may soon enjoy reduced fines as the Code of Administrative Responsibility has undergone amendments. This issue was under scrutiny at the plenary session of the Legislative Chamber on Wednesday.
The bill was developed on the initiative of a group of deputies as a result of studying systematic problems in areas related to road safety. According to them, the introduced norms will also prevent corruption.
For example, Article 54 of the Code of Administrative Responsibility refers to violations in the fight against the epidemic. The minimum penalty is $430 and the highest is $640. This is done to mitigate the punishment based on the situation.
For example, drivers of vehicles near markets, shopping centers and supermarkets can violate the rules of parking and stopping. Because in many places, the infrastructure is undeveloped. There are not enough parking spaces, but they pay fines a lot. It is also proposed to impose fines depending on the degree of guilt in an accident. In particular, in cases that do not cause material damage or bodily harm, a fine up to $64,000 is provided.
In 2020, the border customs post Ayritom of Surkhandarya region, located on the border with the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, seized about 200 kilos of drugs from illegal traffic. Owing to the recent regulations, a service system now deserves to be an example.
On the territory of the post, citizens have a choice: cross the red or green corridor. Despite the fact that the red and green corridors were introduced into practice not so long ago, the reviews of citizens moving from here are mostly positive.
My family and I often cross the border on family and work matters. The two-corridor system made our lives much easier. For example, if we do not transport goods subject to customs declaration, we can pass customs control without wasting time.
At the same time, employees use various technical means of customs control of passengers to check luggage and vehicles. In particular, X-ray machines and even the latest body scanner, which shows whether various foreign bodies are hidden in the internal organs. A large vehicle is inspected by Z-Portal, mobile inspection machine, in a special customs control zone. The advantage of this technical inspection tool is that it shows a color image of a moving vehicle simultaneously from three sides. This ensures a complete and high-quality inspection in 1 to 2 minutes. In practice, a number of other technical means of inspection of the latest generation are used. The service dog, nicknamed Karat, is a loyal assistant to customs officers. This Belgian hunter can distinguish almost 1 million scents. To prepare the animals for effective service, training is conducted from an early age. During this 2-year service, Karat was able to prevent about 2 kilograms of drugs from crossing the customs border.
January 14, the Day of Defenders of the Motherland, marks the Armed Forces Establishment Day in Uzbekistan. The following report demonstrates the capacity of armed forces of the country.
According to Global Firepower Index 2020, Uzbekistan is ranked 52nd out of 138 countries considered for the annual review. The total number of manpower available in Uzbekistan is 13.3 million. Every year, the number of potential recruits increases by 601,000. Currently, 50,000 people are serving in the armed forces of Uzbekistan. The total number of aircraft in the Air Force of Uzbekistan is 185. 66 of them are fighters, 20 attack aircraft, 18 military transport, 2 for training, and 79 helicopters. Uzbekistan has a total of 420 tanks, 1,215 armored personnel carriers, 137 self-propelled artillery, and 98 multiple rocket systems.
In 2020, the Uzbek Financial Control Department carried out over 4,000 inspections and revealed cases of budgetary discipline violations and unwarranted expenditures amounting to $23.5 million. Over $16 million were returned to the budget.
In particular, $9 million worth violations were revealed in the system of the Ministry of Public Education. Embezzlement worth $4 million was detected in the system of the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Preschool Education has also managed to enter the top 3 violators with embezzled funds worth $1.5 million. The Ministry of Housing and Public Utilities had violations with a total damage of some $9 million. Culture Ministry embezzled funds amounting to $6.5 million. 48 responsible officials of organizations were fined for violating the budget legislation.
Kyrgyzstan's economy has seen the strongest decline since 1994. The GDP of the Central Asian country fell by 8.6% in 2020 compared to 4.6% growth in 2019. Industrial production shrank by 6.6%, while a year earlier it soared by 6.9%. Inflation accelerated to 9.7% from 3.1% in 2019. Kyrgyzstan heavily depends on gold production, the bulk of which is produced at the country's largest high-altitude Kumtor field developed by Canada's Centerra Gold Inc. Centerra had plans to produce 17.4 tons of gold in d'Or bars. In addition to gold mining, which dominates the country's industrial production, Kyrgyzstan's economy also depends on trade with neighboring China and remittances from migrant workers working in Russia.
What we're seeing is like nothing we have ever seen.
As coronavirus cases continue to surge in California and throughout the U.S., Providence St. Mary Medical Center, a small hospital in Apple Valley, has run out of ICU beds for patients. Inside, coronavirus patients on stretchers line the corridors of the emergency room. Outside, a tent has been erected to screen and test people for COVID-19. The pandemic is taking its toll on medical staff, with many unable to cope. Executive Director of Acute Care at Providence St. Mary Medical Center, Mindy Hickey.
We've had physicians retire. We've had lab staff quit. We've had nurses quit. We've had CNAs quit, monitor techs quit. People have left critical care and gone to other units because it's just too much for them anymore. It's really taking a toll on people. It is.
Carrie McGuire, the supervisor of palliative care at the hospital, says the death numbers are staggering.
In my years of doing palliative care, I've been doing this now 13 years. I've probably seen more deaths in this last month than I have almost in my whole career, and been at the bedside of that. So yes, we want public to take this very seriously.
Cemeteries are struggling to keep up. Robert Gordon is president and CEO of Cypress Lawn Cemetery Association in Colma, California.
It's a significant uptick in what we're doing, and it's really taxing our systems. We're very fortunate to have made some decisions early on to prepare for the capacity, but it's a lot.
Last spring, the cemetery purchased 2 cold containers used to store bodies. The containers, which each have room for up to 50 people, went unused until the fall. California, the nation's most populous state, with more than 40 million residents, has emerged as a leading U.S. epicenter of the pandemic, despite reimposing some of the most stringent restrictions on social gatherings and business activity. COVID-related deaths, considered a lagging indicator in the pandemic's trajectory, have mounted steadily in California, crossing the grim milestone of 30,000 to date as of Tuesday.
With just 1 week until President-elect Joe Biden takes the oath of office, Facebook is tracking an alarming new trend. Facebook has seen an increase in signals indicating potential future acts of violence associated with efforts to contest the results of the U.S. presidential election since the Capitol siege last week, a company spokeswoman told Reuters. The spokeswoman, who asked not to be named for security reasons, said the storming of the U.S. Capitol by armed pro-Trump demonstrators appeared to be a galvanizing event, spawning efforts to organize gatherings across the country around President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. On Monday, Facebook banned content promoting the phrase "Stop the Steal," which has become a rallying cry at armed pro-Trump protests. Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg told Reuters Next this week that the social media giant will continue to take down posts that may incite violence.
To this day, we are working to find any single mention that might be leading to this and making sure we get it down as quickly as possible.
The Facebook spokeswoman in Wednesday's exclusive said alarming new signals Facebook tracked included digital flyers promoting the events, some of them featuring calls to arms or the insignia of militias or hate groups. The FBI has warned of armed protests being planned for Washington and all 50 U.S. state capitals in the run-up to the inauguration, prompting extraordinary measures in the U.S. Capitol and a strong show of force from the National Guard. Violent rhetoric on online platforms had already ramped up in the weeks before the deadly attack on Congress, when lawmakers were forced to flee as the Capitol was mobbed by Trump loyalists. After the unrest, tech companies took unprecedented steps to crack down on baseless claims of election fraud that had spurred calls for violence. Twitter and Facebook blocked Trump's accounts, while Amazon Web Services and the major mobile app stores cut off social media network Parler, which had been used as a tool by Trump loyalists to communicate ahead of last Wednesday's events. Under pressure from civil rights groups, Alphabet's YouTube suspended Trump's channel for 7 days. Speaking at the Reuters Next conference on Wednesday, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai said YouTube is monitoring Trump's YouTube channel in line with its three-strike policy.
So we've been removing, thousands of videos, including videos from President Trump's channel, if he found them to be violative. We have clear, consistent policies.
After the 7-day suspension ends, Pichai said YouTube will take further action based on what videos the Trump account posts. And despite facing even internal calls at Google to ban Trump altogether, Pichai referred to Google as a noisy democracy.
Prosecutor Nicola Gratteri has spent 3 decades battling Italy's most powerful mafia group. On Wednesday, Italy launched one of the biggest trials ever of the mob because of it. More than 320 suspected members of the 'Ndrangheta mafia clan and their associates face charges including extortion, drug trafficking and theft. The 'Ndrangheta, based in Calabria, is one of the largest organised crime groups in the world. Gratteri said people are starting to speak out.
Decades ago, talking of La Cosa Nostra or just pronouncing the word 'Ndrangheta was scary. They were words that were whispered in corridors or in homes by the fire. Today we talk about it openly. In the last 2 years, we've had a surge in lawsuits from oppressed entrepreneurs and citizens, victims of usury, people who for years have lived under the threats of the 'Ndrangheta.
This police footage shows the arrest of more than 300 'Ndrangheta in a huge operation in 2019. Drugs were also seized. Wednesday's trial recalls the case against hundreds of Cosa Nostra mafiosi in 1986, which marked the group's sharp decline, to 'Ndrangheta's benefit. It's taking place in a converted call centre in Calabria, with defendants held in metal cages. Many of the accused are white-collar workers in law, accounting, business, local politics and the police. Gratteri, who never goes anywhere without an armed escort, says they willingly helped the 'Ndrangheta to build its crime empire. The trial is expected to take a year.
He was born in Queens, built lavish Manhattan high-rises stamped with his name, and cemented his celebrity status with his New York City-based Apprentice reality series. But on Wednesday, Donald Trump officially became something of a persona non grata in his native New York, as the city severed 3 contracts with the Trump Organization for his role in the deadly siege on the U.S. Capitol last week. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio.
In light of this criminal act, the City of New York has determined that it is within our power to terminate all contracts with the Trump Organization.
Specifically, the city is moving to cancel contracts to operate the Central Park Carousel, 2 skating rinks, and the Trump Golf Links at Ferry Point, a city-owned golf course in the Bronx. De Blasio told MSNBC they earn about $17 million in profit annually for the Trump Organization. Canceling the golf course contracts could take a number of months, while the others could be severed in 25 to 30 days. The New York-based Trump Organization did not immediately reply to a request for comment. Separately, a spokesman for the leading commercial real estate firm Cushman & Wakefield said in an email that it will no longer do business with the Trump Organization. The firm had served as agent for 2 high-profile Trump properties in Manhattan, according to Business Insider, including the president's former residence, Trump Tower. In late 2019, Trump officially changed his primary residence from Manhattan to his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he has suggested he will live after his term ends. Several neighbors have objected to the move, according to reports, saying he lost his legal right to live at Mar-a-Lago after he converted the estate to a private club in the early 1990s.
A choppy trading session ended Wednesday with stocks little changed as investors kept a cautious eye on impeachment proceedings in Washington. By the closing bell, the Dow was down slightly, the S&P 500 up slightly, the Nasdaq finished with a gain. Ross Gerber is CEO of Gerber Kawasaki.
It's pretty amazing. We've seen much lower volatility in such a high volatility time, but I think the market's really looking forward, and this is the low. I mean, could it really get worse in America? We're in the middle of a coup and 4,500 people dying a day. So I think what the market's saying is in 6 months, with the Biden administration taking over and effective vaccine distribution and stimulus, that we'll be in a much better place. And I have to agree with that.
Chip stocks, namely Intel, saved the day for the Nasdaq. After only a short tenure, CEO Bob Swan is out to be replaced by Pat Gelsinger, the head of software company VMware. Intel was the biggest percentage gainer in the S&P 500. Intel's executive gain was seen as VMware's loss, sending that stock down sharply. Holiday sales at Target surged just over 17%, and online sales more than doubled. The discount retailer saw higher demand for home goods, electronics, and beauty products. It also helps that Target has a wide range of shopping options, from same-day delivery to in-store pickup. The stock, however, ticked lower, with some investors expecting even better numbers. Finally, if your pockets feel a little lighter, that's because consumer prices increased solidly last month due to a surge in gasoline prices. But the whiff of inflation is unlikely to shift the Federal Reserve away from its easy money stance.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.